Imagine waking up every day, buried under the weight of other people's expectations. You say yes when you mean no. You commit, but you're already overwhelmed. You show up all right, but the version of you that shows up is exhausted, resentful, and fading. I've been that person, and I know I'm not the only one. My idea worth spreading. From people pleaser to purpose driven, the strategic no. We can go from people pleasing to purpose driven living by leveraging emotional intelligence to say the strategic no. This is not about selfishness, it's about sustainability. It's about choosing alignment over approval. Because when we constantly abandon ourselves to please others, we don't just lose time, we lose ourselves. And what's worse, we start calling that normal. Now let me introduce you to something that I call the do-gooder trap. It starts out innocently enough. You want to be liked, you want to help, you want to be that person that people can count on. You don't want to come across as disagreeable or rude. So you say yes. Yes to the bake sale, yes to the birthday party, yes to the group chat drama, yes to the committee, and the second committee, and the third, and the fourth, and so on. Now, each yes by itself seems harmless, but stacked upon each other, they form a prison made of good intentions. You look up one day and you realize your schedule, your energy, your life, none of it reflects you. And the worst part, the world will applaud you for it. You're so dependable. You're always there for everyone. You do so much. Little do we know that sometimes those compliments are a cover for exploitation. And now, this happens and can happen to everyone, but I've seen it most in people who are, I'm going to say, conditioned, both socially and professionally, to overfunction. Women and doctors. And when you're both, ooh, it's like a powder keg about to explode. Be nice, say yes, do more, don't complain, work harder. Ooh. But what does that lead to though? Guilt, anxiety, depression, burnout, chronic fatigue, and even physical illness. Now, when you get into that hyper-functioning mode, unfortunately, sometimes you may not even take your own physical illness seriously until it's too late. About 7 years ago, I lost a dear friend in circumstances just like this. Why does this happen? It doesn't happen because we're weak. It happens because we never learn to say no without shame. Now, many years ago, I too hit my breaking point. I was overcommitted in every sense of the word. Professionally, socially, and even emotionally. I look back and say that my calendar was the graveyard of my own boundaries. I was working long shifts, including night shifts. I was mentoring people. I was raising a young family, and I was volunteering. Yes, volunteering. At one point, heading 3 committees in a volunteer organization that I was working with. Now I look back and I say, how and why did I do that? But at the time, I told myself that this was what good, nice people did. But the truth was, I was drowning, but too ashamed to admit it. One fine day, I looked at myself in the mirror, really looked, and I couldn't recognize the stranger that was staring back at me. I looked tired, hollowed out, I felt resentful, and the joie de vivre had left my eyes. How did I get here? Not by being bad, but trying too hard to be good. So, that moment changed everything. And I started asking myself new questions so I could tell myself a new story. So after that, every time there was an ask or a task, instead of asking, how can I help? What do I do? How can I fix this? I said, do I have the capacity? Is this in alignment? Is this mine to carry? Because I finally realized that I had a choice. But that choice began with the word no. Now, what helped me get to this point? It wasn't a planner, another planner. I have so many of those. And it wasn't a self-care checklist. Those are great too. I have many of those as well. Clearly, they weren't helping me. What helped me was emotional intelligence. Now, world-renowned psychologist Daniel Goleman describes emotional intelligence as a set of skills, a particular set of skills. Self-awareness, self-regulation, motivation, empathy, and social skills. He describes emotional intelligence as EQ. And having a high EQ doesn't mean that you're nice. It means you're honest, first with yourself and then with others. Emotional intelligence helped me recognize when guilt and not values was driving my decisions. Emotional intelligence helped me understand childhood and cultural conditioning behind my people-pleasing ways. Emotional intelligence helped me to set boundaries without burning bridges. And I was able to go from the reactive yes to the reflective no. And that is how the strategic no was born. The strategic no is not about rejecting people. It's about respecting your purpose. It says, I care about you, but I will not abandon myself to care for you. It says, I can support you, but not at the cost of my mental and physical health. It says, this is important, but I am important too. Now here's the thing, it's not easy. Because if it was easy, everybody would be doing it. It's not easy, but it's powerful. Because when you say no to something misaligned, you can say yes to what actually matters. But when you say yes and keep saying yes to things that are misaligned, you will end up saying no to what actually matters. I once worked with a client, lady, doctor, brilliant, well-respected professional specialist in her field. On paper, she had it all. In reality, she was coming apart at the seams. She was on 16 committees. What is it with we women doctors and our committees? She was running a very busy specialist clinical practice, managing a team, raising a young family, mentoring students and doctors, and still saying yes to everything. She said to me with this pain look in her eyes, I can't say no. People expect me to show up. In a flash of linguistic brilliance, I said to her, do you expect you to show up for you? And we started. I gave her some homework. Make a list of all the things you said yes to over the last 30 days or so. She comes up with a list. There were over 30 items on that list. Okay? Look at your list and highlight the things that you have capacity for, are in alignment, are aligned with your core values. Guess how many things made the list? 3 out of 30. So we implemented the strategic no. Not a shutdown, not a tantrum, but a thoughtful, emotionally intelligent pause. And let me tell you what happened after that. She didn't lose respect. She gained it. She didn't damage her relationships. She actually deepened them, the ones that mattered. And she didn't fall apart. She said to me, after so many years, I finally feel whole and I feel like myself. That is the power of the strategic no. And now, this message is not just for women or doctors. It's for everybody and anybody who has fallen into the do-gooder trap and felt swallowed up by your own goodness. So let me ask you, where are you saying yes just to be safe rather than to be true? And what would your life look like if you started saying no? Not to people, but to guilt, to pressure, and to performative self-sacrifice. Because here's what I know. Saying yes to everything isn't generosity. Sometimes it's just fear wearing a smile. But when you develop the courage to say the strategic no, you reclaim your time, you reclaim your energy, and you reclaim your very self. Because the strategic no is not the end of your compassion, but is the beginning of your clarity. The strategic no is what helps you survive other people's expectations and start living your own vision. So next time, and I'm looking at you, whoever you are, next time your heart says no and your mouth starts to say yes, pause, breathe, and in that breath and in that pause, ask yourself, do I have capacity? Is this in alignment? Is this mine to carry? And remember, you're not here to be everything to everyone every time. You're here to live on purpose, with purpose, for purpose. And by implementing the strategic no, you can heal, you can live, and you can thrive. Thank you.